like Super Nat and Tariq were really tight. So I think we spent like just 2 hours in his break room and chilling, whatever. And he's like tracking the song, and he's working on the song called "When I Was King." When I was king, when I was king, I ruled everything. Like it reeked of a KRS-One hook. But I noticed that every time he started a verse, it was a new verse. And he's like, no, I don't like that. Let's do it again. So it's like, I don't know, take two. And then he does the hook. And then it was not, and I realized he was like, I'm gonna make this entire album freestyle. Like, I'm not gonna write anything. And I was like, yo, this is a recipe for disaster. So I wanted to know, did that album ever get completed? And this also is a nice, wonderful segue into another person that attempted to do that and actually
did it?
Made some some traction with it, which is, of course, I got to ask you, what was it about Jay-Z that made you say, because I believe your quote to me was like, I knew he was the greatest the first time I heard it.
Yeah.
Like normally someone builds up to that, but how did you know?
I knew because he was saying rhymes that were better than the guys that I thought were the best. But they were like so much better that I was like, wow, these guys aren't even like close. Him and Jazz, to me, were like the most elite MCs I ever heard. But Jay had something else. He had the rest of the package. You understand? Like Jazz had the bars, like Jazz's bars, like insanity. He would say things that I would have to be like, wow. And we would be in the room like, wow, did he just say that? But then Jay would go in and say some shit and we'd be like, wow. But everything else was attached to it. It was like the flow, the style, the cadence, the attitude. You walked away believing every single word he said. And I was just like, yeah, this guy's, he's going to be looked at as the greatest.
Why do you think it took so long for quote unquote heads, end quote, to actually give him, his propers, if you will?
Okay. But before we do that, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna say, when you was talking about another guy who freestyled, Jay never freestyled. Everything that you hear was what he put together. So it was written, it just wasn't written down. It was written in his memory.
Okay.
And
it is a difference.
He remembered what he was saying by the rhythms that he wrote it in.
But isn't that a form of freestyle though?
Nah. Not at all. Nah, because he's putting it all together. So like a
freestyle, you're still writing it. A freestyle is like when you just come in like off the top.
Right off the top of your head. Like none of that shit was coming off the top.
Yeah,
he puts it. He's formulating the raps. Yeah,
he has supreme memory too, right? Because that too has to be. It's like
his recall game when he was making records was insanity. Because I would be like, we driving from the city to Brooklyn, and a beat would be playing, and he'd be like, "Yo, I got it." You got what? I got this one. We're gonna go in the crib and we're gonna do this one, and we would do it, and I'd be like, "Dog, when did?"
Okay, so like, talk about tracking. Talking about tracking him, is it
right
a stanza at a time? Is it like half a verse?
No. Jay was one guy who could put it all together. He could put each verse together in one shot, and then go back and do the ad libs. Like he would do a verse, do the ad libs, and then go to the next verse. But I'm just like, dog, all right, like we can do the ad libs later.
Yeah, it's a memory. It's a memory exercise. I did minstrel show like that. I did that from like 04 to like.
You did minstrel show like that?
Yeah, when I heard the stories like, oh, Jay don't write, but he does it, and I was like, all right, let me try it. And so I tried it, and I was like, okay, cool. So like everything from like 04 up until I built my studio at the crib in 09, like all of that was dope paper.
Why you stopped then? Wait.
Just the studio change. Like, so for me, I mean, my process at the time, like, was just, we were recording in the studio. So you just cut the beat on to 50 and just walk around, and I would just kind of write it and put it together. And then tell my engineer, like, all right, bro, let's go. And I do it. When you're recording at home and you
And
got
now the Drake era.
right. Yeah, but now when you're recording at the crib, it's like I'm not gonna leave a beat on loop forever, you know, when my kid is trying to sleep. So that was when I went back to it became more of a thing, it became more of a writing. And I think just for me, my style as an MC at that time, it was really changing from I don't want to be just a great rapper, I want to be a great writer. Because I think I think there's a longevity in it. You know, the reason why guys like a Jay, you know what I'm saying, can still perform at a high level now is because he, in my mind, he thinks of himself as a writer. Like you can mature as a writer. Can you mature as a rapper? Maybe, I don't know. But if you think of yourself as a writer, there's always, and as a storyteller, you always have room to grow and mature.
I think I think the right way to say it is he thinks of himself as an MC, not a rapper.
Okay.
And when you're an MC, what you're saying becomes more important to how you say it.
100%.
Because you got something you want everybody to get. You want, like, is triple entendres is like, are you getting this? Like, there's things on the first album that people just don't get. And I'm just like, man, like, this is like freaking 20 something years ago. Like, why is this mind blowing to you right now? Like, you should have got that maybe a year later, but like we're 25 and you still don't get it. You know, so
yeah.
But I will say, the first time I started having, and this is like literally the first session we do, he did that shit, and I was like, yo, what the fuck just happened? Like, dog, did you have that already? He was like, nah. He was like, this is what the beat said for me to do, and I was like, how did you remember all that? And he explained. He was like, you know, just like when you learn your ABCs, I took this part and I put it together based off of what he said. He was like, I remember the rhymes based off of the rhythm in which I wrote them. So if a rhyme goes, that's the way he remembers the rhymes is to the but that he's coming up with. And I was just like, in my mind, I was like, fuck are you talking about? So I said, what the fuck are you talking about? So he would go, most of my cadences come from drum rolls. And I was like, what? And he would, come on, let's look at this record. And you hear that right there, that drum roll, that's a cadence right there. And I'm just like, yo, what the fuck are you talking about? And he would display the shit and go back, yo, remember that drum roll? Go listen to that shit. And I'd be like, oh, he's a wizard.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I love it when y'all make it sound like science, and because it is sometimes.
And so later on in my mind, I was like, the first thing you learn to remember, you learn it connected to music. So connected to a rhythm, A, B, C, D, E, F, C. Like you connect it to a rhythm. Like it's so much easier to remember something that's
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Schoolhouse Rock was the proof of that shit. Like you can remember everything from Schoolhouse Rock if you watched it twice, based off of the rhythm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's the truth. So like
You're right.
he explained that shit to me, and I was just like, that's masterful. And that also gave me something else in my pocket when I would walk around and talk to people about them. I'm like, yo, my man don't even write the shit down. Like, people be looking at me like, Clark, you're a liar. The first person told me I was a liar was Skills. So I was like, Skills, come to the crib. He was like, I'm not, for what? I was like, yo, my man's here and you're gonna record too, but just come to my crib. He sees Jay come in, listen to the beat for a while. He could tell you this is the truth. And he went in and got on the mic and said everything that he was mumbling in the hallway. And he was like, yo, what the fuck just happened? The same way I was. He was like, I said, dog, I told you he don't write it down. He just thinks of it. I said, and then he thinks of it and puts it all together and everything. Like when you think of 99 Problems and think that there's no pen attached to that, there's no pen attached to Meet the Parents. Yeah, I'm sorry, dog. He's a fucking wizard, yo.
You just reminded me now. I witnessed that. Now I got to search for this shit because I mean, technically, he did it just so that he recorded something just so that he could remember it specifically for a show that we were doing. But mid rehearsals for that whole Reasonable Doubt thing that we did for the anniversary, he's like, you know what? He's like, I'm gonna do a sequel. I'm gonna do 44 fours. And so he was like, all right, we were at the time, Sony Studios was still up. And he was like, all right, redo Can I Kick It? And just lay the beat down for 5 minutes. So like me, Adam Blackstone, I forget like who else was there. So we were hooking it up like we were going to do it during the show. And the whole time I thought he was just like recapping something that he might have wrote a sequel to it or whatever. He's like, no, I'm making it up right now. He's like, just give me a half hour. I'll get it. And I really regret this moment, but this is the exact moment where in the next room, in the room next door, Kanye and Consequence were just working on I don't know if you remember this song on Consequence's record. Your girl keeps fucking me. Your girl. Yes. It's one of the hardest beats I ever like. If you remember remember that beat, like we were all, I should have, like, I don't know, like my older self's like, yo, you could have witnessed a real historical moment of watching this motherfucker craft it. But I'm not thinking like I'm making a beat for Jay-Z to, he's just like, I got to remember my rhyme. So just give me a half hour and I'll have it. So we're running in that room to watch old boy, like, put this beat together for Consequence and shit. And I came back. He's like, all right, I'm done. And he laid it. And it didn't hit me till like much later that he actually made that rhyme up at the moment. And mind you, there were 44 fours in there. So that's the part I'm still like, I was like, he had this one in his pocket. There's no way. And he's like, no. He's like, I made it up on the spot. And
22 twos was a freestyle that he used to do every time we performed at Maria Davis.
Right.
Well, what we call freestyle, when you rhyme to a beat and you just go off.
Right.
We would do that shit to Can I Kick It? This was before there was a beat to it. And then it was like, yo, make a beat to it. Yo, Ski, come up with something to it. Like, but he said 22 times. And I was like, wow.
Right. Well, he said 444 times. And I was
no, 100%. So trust me, when the first time he did it, I was like, what the? And then the next time he did it, I was in the side going. And then when it got to 22, I was just like, nah.
Right.
And understand me, this is the second time he did it in front of us. You know what I'm saying? The first time we was just like, oh, that shit is crazy. Oh, 22 twos, yeah. Then I was like, 22. Wait a minute. 22 twos. That means something different. Let me listen. And I was just like, he said 22 times. He's a wizard. Dude, he's not regular, man. So when 44 fours came out, I was like, I'm not even gonna tell nobody. He said 44 times.
Exactly.
He said 444 times. I'm not even gonna tell nobody because they're gonna say I'm lying.